Okay, so continuing on our discussion, we had left off with true failure of quests. Was that pretty much enough said? Where one way or another there needs to be some sort of contingency, even if we...
At least for the epic arcs.
Yeah.
For everything else, you know...
Go get me some milk. I failed to get you some milk.
Yeah, that quest is just gone.
That's
but
gone.
With a lot of those kind of, like with player-driven quests, I mean, really, that's just going to be up to the player as to whether or not they want to hire you to do something again after you do it. And we can't control that.
That's right.
That'll be, you know, if you're doing a quest for your friend and you mess it over, your friend might say, all right, we'll just go try it again. But if it's somebody you don't know who's anywhere else on the planet, then they might just tell you to go do something else with your time.
That's right. All right, so what was the next thing that you had?
Well, the next thing I've got on the list is assuming we can't voice act everything. Let's go ahead and just make that assumption now.
Okay.
We can't voice act. I know. I feel the same way, but assuming we can't, do we want to be able to more or less... actually, let me not say turn off. Let me write it out this way. Bare bones text. Meaning all you really see is just objectives, and you don't worry about filler or why you're doing this, that, or the other. All you get to see in terms of your playback is, you know, get this, get that, get this, turn it into this guy. You're done.
Yes,
I mean,
that should be an option.
Well, hold on. I mean, is that all you're going to add, Zach? Because
actually, it is, because to me, it's one of those things where you could go either way, and I know well, I would hope there are some people who feel kind of passionately about it either way. Like, I, for one...
don't feel passionately about it.
I don't feel passionate, no. I really would hate to see this turned on, but I can see that there are some shallow little people out there who would want it so badly.
Well, here's the thing, though. I think that it depends. And hold on, let me quantify that.
Okay.
I think that obviously for epic quests there should be text.
How obviously? Tell me why that's obvious.
Because it's the epic. There has to be an epic if there's an epic.
But if the epic quest chain's job was to be the primary means of developing your character, or moving from this area to that area, or even just, you know, unlocking this, that, or the other, then the actual text of what's going on in that story is irrelevant to
I know, but here, bear with me for 1 second.
Okay.
The reason a lot of people don't read that text is because in most MMOs, every single quest has a huge story. Now, what I'm thinking is for epic quests there should be story. For handcrafted quests, there should be minimal story, but still some sort of story as to why you're doing something, especially when it comes into something like go kill my boss, you know, because he slept with my wife. You know, that's enough story. It gets the point across, and it still makes you feel like you're not just doing a kill quest.
Well, and also you have to make a value judgment, and we're talking about a world in which you get reputation and you can be regarded as being generally, you know, a nice person or a nasty person.
No, we don't.
Like
We're not.
No. But okay. But
that's an alignment question, and we haven't even discussed the possibility of putting in an alignment system.
Your actions have an effect. Your actions have consequences.
Sure.
Right,
So
and
then absolutely, you need to put it on the player to be able to make enough information to make the value judgment as to whether they should accept this.
But it has to be very concisely written. It should not be a book like I've seen with a lot of MMOs. And there should be different levels. So epic quests are on the top level. Interesting quests that have some sort of reputation, reward or something are on the next step, where it's a very brief but well-written, concise concept of why you're doing something. And then on the low end, player-generated quests and random procedurally generated quests should be entirely I mean, you're not going to be asked, hey, go get me some milk. And you're not going to say, well, why are you getting me some milk? Or why am I getting you milk? And they're not going to sit there and read to you this whole book about, you know, how they're hungry and they need cereal and they don't like eating cereal with water and they don't like eating dry cereal.
Funnily enough, this comes down to, I think, the key. You can deliver I don't think you necessarily need even your epic quests to present the player with a wall of text if they don't want to see it. But I think the option that's usually there, whereby, like you say, if somebody's idea of a quest is to go and get me a bottle of milk, there should be an option for the player to click on a conversation and carry on a conversation a bit with the AI, because that's something that's quite fun to do generally in games where they've implemented good conversations. Even when you know it
wants half and half or something.
Yeah, exactly. Just something that it absolutely doesn't affect the outcome of the quest. It doesn't affect the bonuses. It's not something you're requiring players to do. But if they're just fancy, they've just killed been through a dungeon and they fancy a bit of life experience in the world, there should be the option there to just get flavor text off people. But not having it on the front page, which I entirely agree with. You want the concepts that need to be got across clear and concise, but there should be the option there to find out more about the world, because you can present the information about the world via conversations and via interaction, rather than with a wall of pages and pages of text. How about me?
Well, the issue that I have, the problem that I'm trying to solve is, when I have played MMOs, and I've really only played with other people, I haven't really played on my own, so I don't really know what the oxymoron of single-player MMO playing is like. But I just get put off when every single time I talk to an NPC, they tell me their whole life story. And I think that at the same time, from a designer's point of view, I really want there to be a story that people play through on the Epic. So I think a good way to encourage people to read the Epic is to not assault them with text outside of the Epic, offer brief descriptions for complex handcrafted quests, and offer little to no description for procedural quests, and then possibly, if we can do this procedurally, offer a conversation box like Gavin suggested. I think that will make people more likely to read the Epic. I mean, does anybody agree with that?
No. I think people who play MMOs will inevitably reach a point where they stop reading everything that takes place on the screen if they don't absolutely have to read it. It's sad, but I think that's kind of the way it works.
But my point is I think that is accelerated by the amount of text that they're assaulted with.
I also feel that's a function of the fact that 98% of MMO quests tend to be very much the same.
Sure.
And presented in that particular way, which hopefully we're not going to...
But you're going to get players who have played other MMOs.
Sure, but
the vast majority of your player base will be people who have played MMOs before.
Yeah, but
if they've already got into the habit of not reading quest text, they're not going to bother.
That's right.
Well, no, hold on. Does anybody... Zach did essentially bring up the premise of what I was suggesting. All I was suggesting was a solution. Do you agree that people will reach that point... do you think people will take longer to reach that point where they just completely blow through the Epic and don't even read any of it if there is more or less text in the ancillary quests?
I'm not sure that it would be a huge determinant factor. I'm really not.
The thing is, I'm 100% with Nelson on his solution, but for slightly different reasons. Which is that it seems to me that you have an opportunity to let the players who are actually interested in the world and getting to know their environment the option without just bombarding you with text to the point where you just get bored of looking at it and so click on accept without even looking, like I find myself doing in these sorts of games.
But could also the option be to have epic quests? Is there any possible option to do voice acting for those epic quests, to do Deus Ex style conversations and dialogues? Because that would make people interested and engaged, but only do them for epic quests. What was that, Nita?
I was going to say the way people were referencing the epic quest as an entity unto itself is slightly starting to grate. I myself, when I was picturing the story quest, which is how I probably would refer to it myself, would be a lot more subtle than you shouldn't necessarily know fully that you're on the story quest. The story develops around your character advancement, and you wouldn't necessarily even have to do all the quote unquote story quests per se.
I think it does feel like a throwback in terms of design, just game. It just feels very linear, that whole idea of a big monolithic quest over and above, and in an MMO it just feels to me always tacked on when it is present, over and above teaching the person the basics of how to play the game. It's
I don't agree.
And to get them around the world, it doesn't feel like a thing which is.
Hang on, Gavin and Nelson, hold the thought. Let's go ahead and pick up in the next video. Thanks.